Okay, let's create some brick walls and brick patterns and how to paint them like this really quick. Okay, let's do it kind of fast. Your time is valuable, my time is valuable, so let's get started. So we're going to create a pattern. The quickest way to get a pattern or to do a pattern is to start with like a square canvas. I usually pick something that's a little bit smaller, like 300 by 300 pixels, because I don't plan on using the textures as textures. I use the textures as guides. So I just use this very quickly. If we want to do like a tiled bathroom, we just have to do squares. Squares are really easy. You could, you know, just make a marquee tool and then do fixed ratio, do 1-to-1, and then all of a sudden you have squares, and then you could, you know, make duplicates like that. But anyways, what we're going to do here is do a brick pattern. Bricks are a little bit more advanced, so let's go ahead and start with that one. So let's start with creating some guides. So we want to divide the canvas up by 4. So horizontally, to divide it out equally, I don't want to do the math of 300 divided by 4, so I'm just going to do 25%. I'm going to do this 4 times. New guide. I'll do a little bit of math, I guess 50%. Hit OK. And then do another guide. New guide. 75%. And hit OK. And then, oops. Did I not do that? All right, hold on a second. 75%. Oh, ampersand. 75%, and then I'm going to also do for the vertical at 50% because we ain't got time for the other stuff. So all right, we do that. Quick way to see if your pattern is working, you go to here, go to view, you go to pattern preview, hit OK, and now you're in pattern preview. So I'm going to take my brush and then I'm going to create a new layer. Oops, create a new layer, and then I'm going to select the color, and it's saying 600 pixels. I don't need 600 pixels. Let's go down to like 4, 5. Let's do 5. 5's fine. Because we have the guides on, snap, it's kind of snaps, but you could try to draw really steady, or you could just hold down Shift and you create that. So if you could see, we're already creating a pretty cool grid pattern. It doesn't have to be so. If you wanted to create something that's a little bit more wonky, you're more than welcome to do that as well. What we're doing here is we're offsetting by each brick. And there we go. That's our brick pattern, and then we could zoom out, and then we're like, oh, yep, that's the brick pattern. And turn off, we turn off pattern preview, and that's it. We're all set. Now we go to here, edit, define pattern, and give it a name. And then we could just name it brickety brick. And then hit OK. Now we have that pattern saved, and we'll come back to it. Don't worry about it right now. Here I do have, let's see. Don't worry about this. This is me just doing a run through of it by myself. All right, now to create the brick wall. First, we have to create a pattern. So I'm going to take a square wall. Well, actually, I don't want a square wall. I'm going to just do normal. I'm going to create a rectangle of the wall. Create a brick red color, hit OK, lock transparency, select one of these texture brushes, offset the colors a little bit, make selections and go in between colors here and there, something like that. Then just random or I could just make it really big, and just stamp it around, you know. If that's not enough for you, you could always take some sort of coffee stain or watercolor thing that you've done. You could apply it to it, stretch it out, do multiply. I'm actually going to rasterize this so I could change the saturation and brighten up the value like that, and then hit OK. Now I have the texture that I want. I'm going to convert this into a smart object, because smart objects makes it a little bit easier to warp things in perspective. So as you can see, now it's in smart object. I could warp it into perspective like that, something like that. Okay, there we go, in perspective. What's nice about smart object is now if it's rasterized, then the bounding box would be reset, but since it's a smart object, it's stayed in perspective, so I could change it, I could adjust it by holding down shift. It stays in perspective. Takes a lot of the guessing game out of this. Okay, I'm going to actually rasterize this to make it a little bit easier, but I could, you know, save it for later or whatnot. So next up, we're going to insert our brick pattern. How do we do that? Oh, easy peasy. We go here, go to new layer, new fill layer, new pattern, and then we go and we pick our pattern. Not this leaf pattern, this brick pattern that we just made. This beautiful brick pattern that we made. All right, so now we have this, but it's, you know, maybe it's a little bit too big for this. So what we can do is I'm going to lower the size, maybe what, 65%, and that feels about right. You want to measure at the very end of your wall as your largest size, because you're going to shrink everything else. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to make a selection. Actually, let me, I'm going to rasterize this layer, make a selection like this. Hit Command X, Command V, and now I have this. I'm going to convert this into a smart object for now. You don't have to. It's just nice in case you want to reuse it later for something else. I'm going to turn this, and I'm going to warp this into perspective as well. Okay. So right now that looks pretty janky, right? Like mid 90s video game graphics or something like that, or something like that, yeah. But I don't want that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to select this layer and Shift Command I. I'm going to invert it. I'm going to make a copy of this, copy, and then Shift Command V. Now it's on top. So as you can see, I have brick with these layers and brick on the bottom. Okay. So what I'm going to do is make a duplicate copy of this, make it darker, the bottom layer a little bit darker, clip this to here, and then I just have to go Command T, offset it a little bit. And then as you can see, all of a sudden I have a little bit of relief. There's different ways of doing this in Photoshop as well. I just really prefer this way of doing it because it gives me a lot of control over how I paint this later. All right, so now we have one relief one way, but I want relief up and down. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the bottom half that's below The top half, I'm going to start with the top half probably because I've zoomed into this area. Top half, I'm going to, of the horizon line, and I'm going to move that up, and then the bottom half of the horizon line, I'm going to move that down. How do I find the horizon line? I just find it through what's vertical. Okay, so right here, it's kind of like that. So this is technically a little bit above the horizon line. So I'm going to take my lasso tool, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I could get real close. Hold down Shift, and then I'm going to go all the way and add that part to this. I'm going to cut and Shift Command V in place, G, and then I'm going to move this up, 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 up. I don't want too much. So I do that, and I move this part down. Yeah, you just want to make sure you don't end up with like with doubles and stuff. All right, so next up, I'm going to make a selection of this, and I'm actually going to shrink the selection. Shrink, contract, 2 pixels. I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. And I'm actually going to use this as there's many different ways to do it. I'm just going to do it this way. I'm going to increase the brightness of this, and then I could offset this one even more. And this will give that little beveled edge of that. Yep. Same thing with this one. I make a selection, and then I'm going to modify the selection by contracting it. You could always do, you know, keyboard shortcuts and all that stuff. I'm just showing you ways of doing it without keyboard shortcuts. And then I'm going to increase the bottom of this. Technically, if you don't really care too much about it being that that perfect, you could always do that. Maybe I want the shadow to be a little bit brighter. Maybe have a little bit more saturation. You know, we could do that. Play around with it, whatever you like. I'm going to merge these, apply that, merge merge these ones, and then that's it. Now we have our brick pattern. Now it's still feeling a little bit you know, two cookie cutters, but so what we can do is play around with the bevel, right? So the bevel is not going to be like super sharp like that. We'll take our gritty brush, and we'll just kind of dab around with it, you know, make some brighter, make some darker. Oops, that's too dark. Make sure that, you know, use common sense and value judgment when you're doing something like this. So I could start with that, right? And then you could always also add All right, I'm just making an inverse selection of the grid so that I could do a shadow pass. Saturation. And then just move that up. Like that. And then we could always come back here and remove that extra line that happens right there. So then you don't have that line, you know, you can play around with it. Then it gets a little bit too nuanced. All right, anyways, so now we have that. Another quick way, I'm going to show you how to do occlusion shadows for that. You go here, go to multiply, take your soft brush, take a warm color, go into multiply, and then clip it to this layer, or you could do, you know, whatever way you like to do it. And then we come back here, do our edges. That's too much. Then we just erase away. Hold down the tilde key, right? And then all of a sudden, you could create this brick wall. All right. Okay. So that was it. That's how you paint a brick wall, and not have it look like everything else. Okay. The power's in you now. You have the power. All right. Take care. Bye.